Lesson 14. Construct future hells. In an episode of the old program, The Twilight Zone, a man awakens in his home and cannot open his dresser drawer. It emerges that he has accidentally voyaged too far forward in time. He learns that every minute of every day is constructed separately by a team of carpenters, and that the particular minute he finds himself in is not yet ready for occupancy. This sounds far-fetched, but it is precisely what we do with the imaginary land in which we spend much of every waking day, the future. We make it up. We cannot be certain that an undetected asteroid won't strike in the night, obliterating our, or everyone else's, future entirely. Every vision of the future we have is just a fantasy. You do not own a crystal ball. The future is always uncertain. It will probably be a mixed bag of good and bad, but most of your feared catastrophes will never happen. Many of us are uncomfortably aware that we spend an inordinate amount of mental effort imagining disasters that are extremely unlikely: the firing, the terminal diagnosis, the bankruptcy, and almost no time contemplating the more probable outcomes: going to work next week, having not been fired, being told the blood tests are fine, getting through the financial squeeze. This is a perfect path to misery. To get there, you should believe wholeheartedly the anxiety-ridden horror films you play on the screen of your future. There's an added treat to the fact that the future is uncertain. Whereas each of us has only one single past, the future has the advantage of multiplicity. We can create endless variations. Consider the possible outcomes of an upcoming business trip, the likelihood of each outcome, and the amount of time you might spend thinking of them. The plane to Chicago crashes. Vanishingly unlikely, 2 hours of thought. You discover you haven't packed something essential like pants. Unlikely, and anyway Chicago has stores. 30 minutes of thought. You blank out in the middle of the presentation, panic, and begin to cry. Never happened yet. 7 hours of thought. Everything goes fine. The most likely outcome. 0 minutes of thought. We can do this for everything in our lives. We can worry both about not getting the job we just interviewed for and about getting it and failing in the role. We can create situations with 10 different resolutions, all bad, and we can feel the pain of all of them. We can be rejected by potential partners 1,000 times without ever making an approach. Try it. Think of something negative that could conceivably happen in the coming weeks, or perhaps an item from your 3 bad things exercise and about which you have been worrying. Turn that thought into a miniature drama, a made-for-me movie, with colour and surround sound. Your idea for a guidebook to misery is declined. See the rejection letter come through the slot and envision the expression on the face of the scornful and overworked submissions editor. Now here's the tricky part. You know that this image is a possibility, not a fact. It has a certain likelihood of occurring, which means it has a corresponding likelihood that it won't. See if you can shift it from something that might happen to something that surely will. Then plug in the emotions and react to the knowledge that this is your path. The track has been laid, and this is where it goes. Then construct a chain of events, turning your brief scenario into the first act of a movie. Discouraged, you give up on writing and resolve henceforth to take up drinking instead. This moment, too, is a choice point of multiple possibilities. Select the worst and create a new film of that outcome. You become dependent on alcohol, ruining all of your relationships, and are abandoned by everyone. Continue on, laying each piece of trek downhill section by section. Too dysfunctional and hostile to work at paid employment, you lose your home and are cast out onto the street. The local newspaper selects you as an example of self-induced destruction and presses for the elimination of all societal safety nets nationwide. Angered by the loss of their supports and treatment programs, a torch-bearing army of your fellows descends upon the alley in which you live and sets your cardboard box alight, the one on which you have written the potential bestseller documenting your decline. Feel the impact as you watch your words go up in flames. You may find that at some point your catastrophizing begins to lose its grip on your emotions, just as stamping on your accelerator pedal while stuck in snow may cause the wheels to spin. It becomes difficult to make yourself feel the magnitude of the disaster. No problem. Simply wind it back a few steps to the point just before plausibility was lost. Play and replay the movie to that moment. The gasps as you enter the conference room pantless. The flickering lights of the ambulance. The disappointment in your children's eyes as you are led away by police. People often wonder how the very fortunate can ever be miserable. They have wealth, health, partners, family, and friends. What's not to like? As often as not, this strategy is key to their feelings. The higher the roller coaster goes, the longer the coming drop can be. The better your life is, the more miserable you can make yourself by the contemplation of losing it all.